Hey, what's up guys? Badger1 here. This is take 2 on this trigger video. Just did one and had a bunch of stuff not work like I wanted it to, so I'm doing it again. Just going to give a basic tutorial. This is for anybody who wants to know how to do simple triggers setups. I'll show a couple of different ways that you can set up just basic triggers to make stuff happen in your missions. Triggers are under F3. They're over here in the assets next to group objects compositions. Hit F3. There's one which is a basic trigger. Put it down. It doesn't have any kind of diameter or radius or anything like that. The second one is 100 meters in radius. You can also change these to squares if you want. You change it to square. Turn it around, notice that it's a square. The size of the trigger can be adjusted here. This is the width of both sides. The C is actually the height of it, defaulted to -1, which means it shoots all the way up into the sky as far as the sky goes, which is pretty damn far. So like if you wanted to make this a rectangle trigger, you could change this to 10, and that's what you get, like so. So for the purposes of this demo, let's just make it a smaller rectangle, just like so. You can click OK, and here's our trigger right here. So let's put this right out here on the runway, and you double click on the trigger and you notice that there's a couple of things that pop up. The most important and the one that you use most often in your mission building is activation. You have a whole list of options here. Any player, anybody, blue 4, op 4, independent, civilian. So you can specify if you want anybody to turn on this trigger, you can click on anybody. If you want just the blue 4 to activate it, select blue 4. If you want op 4 to activate it, select op 4, independent, civilian, and so on and so forth. The game logic is a totally different animal altogether. It allows you to do in-game things that are non-trigger specific. I would have to make a whole different video on how to do game logic. So you can do stuff like bring down buildings and stuff before the mission even starts. You can make a whole town look like it's destroyed by using game logics if you want. So stuff like that. But for the purposes of the demo, let's just leave it on activation of blue 4. Activation type, you want it as present, because I will show you why just right now. So let's, for the purposes of demo, let's put down an aircraft. Let's do this A164, Alt, make it empty, set it down here on the runway like so. Actually, I think I just double clicked it, so it's going to open up a menu for it. Got my mouse speed activated too fast, I think. Come on then, if you're gonna do it. I got all night here. There we go. Just close that back out. Alright, so let's park it right about here. And you notice it's within the blue 4 trigger. So let's put down a pilot. Select a pilot here. We're going to put him outside the trigger zone because we're going to show how the trigger operates. So pilot here, and so let's say we want to have a fuel truck come to this plane once the pilot has reached the plane. Let's do that setup. So let's go to cars, him at fuel, park it right here. If you watched my previous editing tutorials, you'll know about waypoints and stuff like that. But basically, you're going to have to give this guy 2 waypoints, one in front and then a second one there. And then, like I said, when the pilot gets to the plane, we want the fuel truck to drive over to the plane. So you can just do a straight shot and just make him drive right over there. You can also limit his speed and everything. Like I said, watch the previous tutorials and you can learn how to adjust everything within the waypoints. But this tutorial is about triggers, so we're going to make this pilot come over here to the plane just so that he passes the edge of the trigger and enters this blue 4 present zone that we've put down. So there's the trigger. You can see it says trigger, blue 4 present. And the way that you make it fire off is that you're going to sync this trigger, set waypoint activation right here. You're going to set it to this second waypoint right here. Basically what you're telling this truck to do is roll forward to this point and wait for the trigger to happen, is basically what you're telling it to do. So based on the way we've got it set up, we'll hit spectate and watch and see how the trigger fires. Take it a couple of seconds to load here. Okay, so you can see here's our pilot.
Support units are now on standby.
Gonna run over here to the runway, and the trigger edge is like right at the edge of the runway. So once he reaches that, the truck should start to move. And here goes our truck. So he's moving. He should move right over here to the edge of the plane and park. That's what he should do. Pretty simple. It did exactly what we told it to do. Sometimes you will want enemies to react based on what blue 4 units do. For example, if you wanted to set up an ambush type situation, you could use that same type of trigger. Let's delete this. Delete these guys. We don't need these guys anymore. Like this. But we will leave our trigger, our blue 4 present trigger, okay? And we're going to put it right out here on this roadway. Now what we'll do is we'll put some enemy units in the trees over here and sort of set up an ambush type situation. Let's do some African terrorists in a group. Let's do a fire team here. Spin them around a little bit. Let's do a fire team 6. Put them here. Like so. Now what we want them to do is we don't want them to be seen just yet. These guys are below the road for whatever reason. And the dirt sunk down. That's weird. These guys are too. Alright, so all these guys are grouped together. So we're going to do waypoint 1 on him. We're going to edit his waypoint so that we're going to change his behavior to stealth. And we're going to just leave him in the same formation combat mode. We're not going to change any of that. We're just going to put him on stealth. So when the mission starts, all of these guys in this group should go prone and lay down. Same with this guy right here. Just put a waypoint on him. Tell him to go stealth. Okay. And what we want to have happen is all these guys laying prone. We want them to change the behavior to combat, open fire, keep formation. Same with these guys. Second waypoint, combat, open fire but keep their formation. And we want them to seek and destroy this area right here, which is where the ambush is going to be. So Click on this guy's waypoint as well. Seek and destroy. So the way you get them to do that is you tie, if the blue 4 shows up in this area, set waypoint activation. I'm going to do it to this trigger here. You can set it to multiple units. You can have 40 units out here and tie them all to the same trigger. It doesn't matter. So on both of those guys. So what happens is blue 4 unit, we're going to have a couple of, maybe have a truck come down the road here. And as soon as it hits this area, blue 4 is going to be present, and these guys should go active and start shooting. So let's see if that's what happens. Let's put down a blue 4 truck. Let's do a HEMT transport covered. Let's do a couple of them. Let's do a hunter truck first, behind them. And again, I'd recommend watching the other videos. It shows you how to group units together and how to put so-and-so in command, how to do all this stuff that I'm doing right here. Move, move, move. Okay, so this truck is grouped to this truck, so this truck should start taking off. We're going to go ahead and put his movement to limited so that he'll drive slower, and keep him in a column, and keep his behavior on safe. And when we go in here and watch this, spectate this, these guys should do absolutely nothing until these trucks reach this line right here. So let's see if that happens. Hopefully it will. I think it should. I've set triggers up like this before. I don't see why it shouldn't. And so they should cut loose with whatever weapons they have, the enemy.
Be advised, support units are now on standby.
So here's our trucks, and they're moving. If you look down here, everybody should be getting stealthy and going prone. They're not. And they're ambushing the convoy like we told them. Guy finally decided to get out of the truck. Just trying. Anyway, you get the idea. So they ambushed the convoy as it came through the thing. As they hit the trigger. So that trigger worked. So let's say you wanted to have this followed by a second trigger, and you want to tie two triggers together. Let's say if we just witnessed that when this whole group ambushed this convoy, they immediately took out this vehicle with an RPG. So let's say we want to have a NATO helicopter show up to attack these guys if this vehicle right here is destroyed. Well, in order for that to happen, we have to name this vehicle. So we'll double click on it, give it a name. We'll just call it Truck 1. Okay. And we're going to set up a separate trigger over here. And this one doesn't have to have an area. It's just a call. I call it a call trigger. You're calling something to happen. You can double click on it. Trigger expression. In the condition line, it's this right here. This is what is going to happen in this trigger in order for the helicopter to show up. Well, the way you type that in ARMA speak is you do ! alive truck 1. So that means the condition of this trigger, that doesn't have to be blue 4 present because we're talking about just one vehicle. The condition of this trigger is if alive ! alive means dead truck, is basically what you're telling it. So once that happens, you just leave this right here. Once that happens, we're going to put an Apache hovering over here behind this mountain. Well, let's make it a Pawnee. We're just going to put it, have it hovering right here in place. I don't know why it's all crooked. That's kind of weird. Let's do a different one. Okay, so here's our air support. So we're going to put a trigger on him. It says move and then move. The second trigger, you want him to get there as fast as possible, so you're going to say full and you're going to do combat. Okay, so he's going to fly up and over these mountains. Let's make sure that he can do that. Make sure I'm on the right trigger here. This it up, raise it up a little bit. So you can use a 3D editor and sort of say where this is going to go. So yeah, he is going to fly right up above this mountain, pretty freaking close. Okay, you should fly to right about here, and then you can do right down here, bam, double click on it, seek and destroy. Okay, so if this truck right here gets destroyed, as we've stated in this trigger right here, by putting alive truck 1, if this truck gets blown up, then this little helicopter is going to come into the rescue. And you do that by doing set waypoint activation. You find our helicopter, which is over here, and you're going to put it on the second trigger, not the first, the second. Okay, so let's see if this plays out the same way. Go to spectate. I know this video is running long. I will end it after this one and do a second one. I need to, for how to do different types of triggers. All right, so here comes our.
Be advised, support units are now on standby.
Comes our trucks. They should start getting ambushed here in just a second. Yep, they've crossed the line. They're still moving. They're taking fire. Now they're really getting shot at. Hopefully they'll take this truck out again. Alright. So now this truck is disabled. Now the helicopter should show up any minute. It should fly from this mountain pass over here and show up and start attacking these ambushers. I'm fixed to see. Hear him. There he is right there. And he should come in and he should do a strafe and run or do rockets or something on these bad guys, maybe. Hopefully he'll turn around and actually do some damage. Looks like he's swinging back around for another pass. Shot him down. Anyway, so you get the idea with that. That's how you can do more than multiple tie triggers together. Anyway. So there you go. A couple of simple basic triggers. Even how to do a convoy ambush using triggers. And call air support using a trigger. I'll do another quick demo right quick and show you how to set up. Well, I've already got one set up in this mission. I'll just show you how it works from this mission here. It'd be kind of a longer video, but this is how to set up a roadside IED using a trigger. Let's see right here, I put some objects down. Here is the trigger, which is this type right here, the first type. And in the trigger field, we'll click on this so you can see what's in there. You don't need any kind of scripts or anything like that for this. This is all done by trigger. This is what goes in the condition field. I have named my IED. I didn't do this, but this right here is my IED. It's actually an object in the game. You have to give it a name in order for the trigger to work. I've named mine IED 1. You can do that right here, variable name IED 1, and just place it down on the map. In order for that IED to go off, you set up a trigger, and instead of using this as a way to detect blue 4 present, because you'll notice on this trigger it has activation none, this condition right here tells the trigger to fire based on west, which is NATO. It's telling it to count side, which is, it means any, based on this figure here. If there's any NATO units within this vicinity of the trigger, it will set the trigger off. So within 5 meters, if any NATO or western side forces are within 5 meters, the trigger will fire. And this is what happens when it does fire. You can type in this script here: bomb or null any variable name equals, and then this is the class name for a GBU-12 laser guided bomb. Create vehicle get position of IED 1. So basically, in layman's terms, when anybody from the blue 4 side gets within 5 meters of that object that I have named IED 1, it's going to make the explosion of a GBU-12 bomb going off to basically simulate an IED. And so you can put the trigger near it like this. You can put it all the way down here. It's still going to fire based on the parameters that you've given it. Doesn't matter, but I like to have all my stuff grouped close together because I'm a little anal like that. Sort of disguise it in a trash pile like I've done here. These are objects. Okay, and I've already got a truck down. This is just a blue 4 truck on a waypoint. This is his ending waypoint down here. So basically I'm just going to make him drive past the IED to set the IED off, and we'll go into spectate and watch what happens. And in fact, let's get over here so we can see what happens when he drives past it. Get kind of eye level with it. Do spectate. There are multiple different explosion types that you can put on an IED. And I can list these in the video description if you want to change the size of the explosion. This is pretty much the biggest one. So here comes the truck.
Support units are now on standby.
It's going to drive down the road, hits the IED. Bam! And the IED goes off. Truck destroyed. I mean, it like totally wrecked it. Totally done. Somehow the crew is still alive for whatever reason. No, I think he's actually dead. But anyway, and that's where the IED went off. Right there. So another cool thing to do with a trigger, IED. So those are 3 different types of trigger usages. For this video. If you want more ideas, if you want more examples of how to use triggers, just shoot me a text to let me know, or message me on my video description and let me know what you'd like to see, and I can make it for you. Get rid of that. Save everything that I've done to change that. Alright, there you go.